2 Pro Bowl receivers on the move. Another first-rounder headed to the Rams. Packers active. Sellers, though, not buyers, and everyone else is staying put. Welcome to NFL Total Access with Scott Hanson and Lindsay Rhodes, and a lot to discuss.
The trading deadline has come and gone. We have former first-round picks, former Pro Bowlers, and a guy who made a bad mistake on Sunday with a new team today. We have boiled it down to the top 5 trades of the day. Ian Rappaport and Tom Pelissero join us with the details. Ian, let's start with you. As former Pro Bowl wide receiver Demaryius Thomas has a new home.
He does, Scott. The Houston Texans are the new home for Demaryius Thomas. He was traded for a fourth rounder, and the team also swapped 7th rounders. And, for the Broncos, yes, of course, they are sellers, but it does allow them to get Courtland Sutton, their 2nd-round pick, who they absolutely love, on the field. That is a big win for them. And for the Houston Texans, considering they lost Will Fuller, they needed a receiver. They get a very accomplished one. And the Broncos really did have a market. Several teams, Tom, were interested in this. The Philadelphia Eagles, the New England Patriots, the Titans. In the end, he lands in Houston.
Ian, the Eagles also got a veteran receiver, acquiring Golden Tate from the Lions for a 3rd-round draft pick. Philadelphia had been shopping for any type of extra weapon for Carson Wentz. And for Detroit, the Lions are just a game out in the NFC North. They're not throwing in the towel here, but they were unlikely to retain Tate after the season. Felt like they would take the value now. Another deal getting done today. Former number 3 overall pick Dante Fowler Jr. traded from the Jaguars to the Rams for a 3rd-round pick in 2019 and a 5th-rounder in 2020. The Rams knew they needed to get better on the edge. They continued their aggressive dealings, while Jacksonville was not shopping Fowler per se. I'm told this was not about the locker room, not about shaking things up. They also saw a player they were unlikely to retain after the season, knowing, Ian, they got a guy named Yannick Ngakoue who's going to command big money.
Yeah, they certainly do. By the way, we're not done yet. Another big-time trade, actually 2, by the Green Bay Packers. One, Ty Montgomery, their running back / receiver, who clearly was on the outs after his extremely costly fumble on Sunday. He goes to the Baltimore Ravens for a future 7th-round pick, just to give away. This is a pick in 2020. So for the Green Bay Packers, they closed the door there. But for the Ravens, they have been searching for a running back since forever, ever since they called the Buffalo Bills and tried to get LaShawn McCoy. So the Ravens fill a big hole there. And then the Packers actually made another even bigger move, trading HaHa Clinton-Dix, their former 1st-round safety and a starter for the last several years, to the Washington Redskins. That was for a mid-round pick, a 4th-rounder there. And for the Redskins, they actually have been looking for a safety ever since this summer. They've been scouring the wires and looking for some sort of help in the back end. They get it. And for the Packers, similar to Ty Montgomery, this was a player who did not have a future there. HaHa Clinton-Dix, a really good player, going to command a huge salary in free agency. The Packers get something for him now rather than lose him for free in March.
Thank you very much, Ian. Apparently that HaHa news took a minute to get to his new teammate, Josh Norman. But once it did, he was fired up, I think. Might need some help translating here. Reggie Bush, you want to take a stab at this?
Okay, all jokes aside, I've been in Players Coalition meetings all day, but if we got HaHa, it's a win. Or with. I don't know.
What's the X? What's the X mean here?
It's X with eyes. X with.
He's excited. Yay, he's excited.
You know he's excited.
Okay,
that's all we know.
I can do this one on my own. This is reaction to the Golden Tate to Philly move. Carson Wentz. Let's roll, my man. Excited to compete with ya. And then there is this from Von Miller to Demaryius Thomas. I'm going to cry in the car.
Definitely cry in the car.
As long as it's in your car, because I'd hate for you to fracture any relationships in your locker room.
Right. I see what you did there.
Reggie Bush, Reggie Wayne, what a day. 5 trades total. DT to Houston, certainly interesting in the wake of what we saw last Thursday. Is this a good move for them?
I mean, I like the trade because I think it's a plug and play. You lose Will Fuller and you bring Demaryius Thomas in. Now, Demaryius Thomas doesn't have the speed that Will Fuller has, but he is still very much a threat. I think he can still very much bring. He can still fill that missing void that Will Fuller, has left in his absence.
I have to go against you there, Reggie. He does not fit that void. Will Fuller is a burner. He taking the top off the defense.
Well, that's why I said he can't.
He's with Will Fuller in that offense.
Yeah,
guys had to account for him taking them deep every time. That's why D-Hop did all that damage from 18 yards and under.
Yeah.
Demaryius Thomas, he is not a Bernie anymore.
Yeah.
So now he's going to be knocking heads with D-Hop from that 18 and under range. So I think he does not fit the void. I don't know how they're going to use him. He's a great veteran.
Yeah, he is.
Good plug and play.
Presence, yeah.
That's perfect. But for the scheme that they run, I just don't see it being a good
Who
fit.
would you rather them gone out and got?
Oh, you should have went down there in Tampa. You should have got Deshaun Jackson.
Yeah, but Deshaun's happy now. They got Fitzpatrick throwing the ball
he's
over
happy,
there.
but guess what? He'd have been a lot happier with Deshaun Watson throwing it to him.
Yeah,
That'd have been a great plug and play, as you say. Put him in there. You're getting the same type of player, if not better. You get your veteran leadership. That would have been the ideal pick for them.
Yeah.
What about Golden Tate? Reggie, you talked to him, I think, right after he was traded, right? Was he happy about this?
He was very excited. The opportunity to go to Philadelphia, the Super Bowl defending champs, to play with Carson Wentz. You know, the one thing that you always worry in these trades is, am I going to another team with a good quarterback?
Yep.
Especially as a receiver. He went to a team with a great quarterback, a good supporting cast of receivers around him, and a good defense that's going to get the ball back to them multiple times.
What do you think?
You know, it kind of bothers me a little bit because, once again, it's about being in the right fit.
Yeah.
Now, you can put him all over the field, but his damage is in the slot.
Yeah.
Their slot guy is Nelson Aguilar.
Yeah.
Now, what do you do with him? When you had Nelson Aguilar on the outside, his rookie and second year, he didn't do as much damage.
Right.
He did a lot of his damage in the middle.
Yeah.
That's when he woke up. He's like, you know what? This is a different player, Nelson. Now, him playing the slot. Now, with Golden Tate going there, another playmaker, does that mean you're going to put Nelson back outside?
Right.
Is Golden going to be outside? So it's going to be interesting to see where you put these guys at on this offense.
And also, I think they were missing that game breaker type player, which is why I think they took a chance on Golden Tate.
Why do you think the Lions gave him up? I mean, they're a game back in the NFC North. It feels a little bit weird to me that they were willing to move him.
I'm baffled. I don't get it. I understand you getting rid of him, but not only that you get rid of him, you get rid of him to another NFC opponent, and not a weak link.
Right. The Super Bowl defending
Philadelphia Eagles is who you give them up for. So that I really hadn't put my mind around that to understand why you did that, especially when you're one game out in the division. You're still fighting for playoffs.
Yeah.
And you get rid of one of your best players to another NFC foe.
Yeah. Yeah, that don't make a lot of sense to me.
Still have Marvin Jones, still have Kenny Galladay, but they were definitely using Golden Tate. How about the Rams move? As if they didn't have enough talent on the defensive side. Now they have Dante Fowler to add to the mix, a former first-round pick in 2015, which was the year that Todd Gurley went 10th overall in the draft. Now they are together in LA, and the MVP candidate is fired up.
Well, I love it. Same draft class. Used to go against this guy, Florida, man. So I know what type of player he is. I know what type of player he wants to be. He's a great competitor. Man, he can make some plays. I'm so excited to have him, honestly. So it's gonna be fun for sure.
More from Gurley Thursday night after the game. How does Fowler fit here?
You're talking about the number 3rd overall pick in the 2015 draft. Already with this LA Rams defense, their front 4 guys up front are all first rounders. With Michael Brockers, Aaron Donald, Ndamukong Suh, and now Dante Fowler.
Yeah.
You just said it. The rich getting richer.
The rich getting richer.
Man, listen, they're telling everybody else, catch up with us because we are showing y'all our names on the back of our jerseys. It's outstanding.
And I love the aggressiveness because I love the fact that they're not sitting back and just saying, okay, we 8-0. We just going to keep playing with what we got. They're going out there being aggressive and giving their defense more weapons. You know who benefits from that? The cornerbacks.
And they do.
The cornerbacks benefit from that.
And one thing about that, once Talib was injured, that secondary kind of got exposed a little bit.
Exposed.
So now you bring in Fowler, Dante Fowler in there. It just helps them out even more.
Oh, and by the way, Talib coming back in December, so
even stronger.
Even more help on the way. All right, a couple more trades that we haven't talked about. We will get to those. We're grading the trades coming up. First, though, Pittsburgh quiet today. No moves there, but they did make an interesting announcement about their quarterback, Ben Roethlisberger, who hurt his left index finger in Sunday's game against the Browns.
Ben had a fractured index finger on his left hand. It didn't prohibit him from being effective in the second half of the game, but obviously we'll look at it in terms of his availability this week and how it might affect him in a practice setting and so forth. Not anticipating it being an issue for him in play or in game.
Steelers with the Ravens on Sunday. Giants are on a bye, and though they didn't make any moves today at the deadline, you have to wonder if the team will look any different when they return to the field. Just one win, and Pat Shurmur's been non-committal about Eli Manning remaining their quarterback. We'll see. His exact quote from yesterday. Of course, that was before his best backup quarterback went out and got arrested today. Kyle Lauletta, accused of eluding police and resisting arrest, was apparently running late for practice and nearly ran over a police officer who was trying to stop him.
Gotta watch out.
So that is not going to help his cause. And Shurmur made that somewhat clear later in the day, jumped on New York radio, called the arrest disturbing, and said there would be consequences for his behavior. Goodness. Meanwhile, it sounds like Eli Manning understands that there are consequences for this as well. His 2018 play, one of his best years in terms of efficiency, but one of his worst in just about everything else. He too went on New York radio this week and acknowledged the end might be near.
I've always been a team player and do kind of what I'm told, and you know, I expect and want to be the starting quarterback and until I'm told differently. That's what the coach does. You know, in a bye week, you evaluate everything. So that's part of his job.
Pleased to be joined by Kim Jones here in studio, covering the Giants and the Jets and all the NFL teams so well for us. We've reached a point where Eli Manning, Pat Shurmur's being asked, is Eli Manning still your quarterback? Yeah. Are we seeing the beginning of the end here?
Well, you know, especially if you combine it with last season, which was handled in a very messy manner, but still had to be handled, right? The answer is yes, and Eli knows it. He said this week, Scott, that when you're in your 15th year and your team's not winning, you don't know how many more opportunities you will have. I think he will be the Giants starter coming out of the bye. I would be shocked if he is not. But at some point, the Giants will have to transition, and I think Eli Manning knows it.
If the Giants were a NASCAR, pieces would be flying off of them right now. Odell Beckham, they make him the highest paid wide receiver in the game, and now it's been a bumpy road on the field and off the field. You've spent some time talking with him. Where's his headspace at right
Scott,
now?
I sometimes feel candidly like I'm this guy's biggest defender. I'm mostly okay with that. I've had so many conversations with him since his rookie year. The one thing I can tell you, every stat in the world we can put on a graphic and they're going to measure up to anyone's. Odell is that kind of a receiver. Every conversation about football I've ever had with him is about his desire to win. I saw him in the locker room the other day. He looked at me, kind of smiled and said, I hate losing. That is what burns inside of him. I submit, and I believe the Giants think he is part of the solution there, even if in certain moments he does let his frustration get the best of him.
Well, 1-7. At the halfway point.
And that's frustrating.
This season is probably written off. We'll see what they build towards in 2019. Kim, good to see you in studio.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
Well, meanwhile, a former Giant retired today. Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie, who was with the Raiders this year, decided to call it a career today. He posted his decision on Instagram. DRC played for 5 teams over 11 years, made the Pro Bowl twice. The Seahawks released Brandon Marshall today. The 34-year-old wide receiver wasn't getting any targets, or many targets, I should say, in Seattle. Marshall, a 6-time Pro Bowler who's played for 6 teams in his 13-year NFL career.